Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Shri R.L. Jain Group of Schools welcome you to our online learning initiative. Class 12 Economics, Government and Employment Generation. You may recall about the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act 2005. We call this as MNREGA. So it means Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. This act was passed in 2005. It promises 100 days of guaranteed wage employment to all rural households who volunteer to do unskilled manual work. So those who are unemployed, they are provided with 100 days of employment, and this is particularly for the rural households. This scheme is one of the many measures the government has implemented to generate employment for those who are in need of jobs in rural areas. Since independence, the union and the state governments have played an important role in generating employment or creating opportunities for employment generation. So both union and the state governments, they work hard, they play an important role in generating employment opportunities. Their efforts can be broadly categorized into two: direct and indirect. When the employees are appointed and given job directly by the government, we call it as direct employment, whereas when it is indirect way of employment, we call it as indirect employment. Let us just understand. In the first category, as we have seen in the preceding section, the government employs people in various departments for administrative purposes. It also runs industries, hotels, and transport companies, and hence provides employment directly to the workers. So when all these undertakings are under government, that is these industries or the transport companies, when it is under the government sector and when employment is created by the government sector, then we call this as direct employment, because employment is done directly. Appointment is done directly and the workers are under the government department. When the output of goods and services from government enterprises increases, then private enterprises which receive raw materials from government enterprises will also raise their output and hence increase the number of employment opportunities in the economy. Now, when the government increases the output of goods, this becomes the raw material for the private industries. Government either provides the raw materials to private industries, or sometimes it buys raw materials from private industries. Now in this case, when the output is provided to the private industries, the private industries also work to raise their output. And to raise output, they need to appoint people. Hence, the employment opportunity increases. For example, when a government-owned steel company increases its output, it will result in direct increase in employment in that government company. Simultaneously, private companies which purchase steel from it will also increase their output and thus employment. So take for example the SAIL, Steel Authority of India Limited. Steel Authority of India Limited. Now, if this Steel Authority of India if it increases the output by increasing the employment opportunities. We call this as direct employment. And at the same time, private companies which purchase steel from this sale will also increase their output. So when they want to increase their output, obviously they have to increase the employment opportunities also. This is the indirect generation of employment opportunities by the government initiatives in the economy. In chapter 4, you would have noticed that many programs that the governments implement aim at alleviating poverty are through employment generation. So many schemes were implemented by the government, and the main aim of it was to alleviate poverty. And this can be done only by employment generation. They are also known as employment generation programs. All these programs aim at providing not only employment but also services in areas such as primary health, primary education, rural drinking water, nutrition, assistance for people to buy income and employment generating assets, development of community assets by generating wage employment, construction of houses and sanitation, assistance for constructing houses, laying of rural roads, development of wastelands or degraded lands. There has been a change in the structure of workforce in India. Newly emerging jobs are found mostly in the service sector. Service sector is otherwise the tertiary sector, like banking, communication, education, all comes under service sector. The expansion of the service sector and the advent of high technology now frequently permit a highly competitive existence for efficient small scale and often individual enterprises or specialist workers side by side with the multinationals. Outsourcing of work is becoming a common practice. It means that a big firm finds it profitable to close down some of its specialist departments, for example, legal or computer programming or customer service sections, and hand over a large number of small piecemeal jobs to very small enterprises or specialist individuals, sometimes situated even in other countries. So it means, what is the advantage of outsourcing? It is to cut the cost. So we can say that outsourcing helps in cutting the cost, and we can say that it acts as a cost cutting measure. Outsourcing reduces and controls the operating cost, as the small piecemeal jobs are given to the small enterprises. The traditional notion of the modern factory or office, as a result, has been alerting in such a manner that for many the home is becoming the workplace. All of this change has not gone in favor of the individual worker. The nature of employment has become more informal, with only limited availability of social security measures to the workers. Most of the job opportunities have become informal nowadays, and many people work from their home. As it is informal, the availability of social security measure to the workers has become limited. Social security measure is nothing but benefits like provident fund, pension, gratuity, etc. In the last few decades, there has been rapid growth in gross domestic product, that is our GDP, but without simultaneous increase in employment opportunities. So even without increasing employment opportunities, the GDP of the country has increased. This has forced the government to take up initiatives in generating employment opportunities, particularly in the rural areas. Rural areas, the people suffer without being employed. Since this is the problem, government is taking initiatives to generate employment opportunities in rural areas.